And welcome back into the Main Event Sports Show. We're here at Main Event Sports Live. Tunerville Deli and Pizza is going down 1101 South 1st Street. Rashawn Myers being joined by the main man with the most, H to the Izzo, Mr. Haven Harrington. Haven, what's going on with you, sir?
Man, I'm having a blast here watching a little Monday Night Football. We got the Colts, the Ravens going at it.
Lamar Jackson. Just say Lamar Jackson. That's
Lamar
all.
Jackson, Flacco. Get to see
Andrew Flacco
Luck.
doesn't matter. Lamar Jackson.
Well, Lamar's the future.
Andrew Luck doesn't matter. It's all about number 8.
Andrew, hey, look, we're a Colts fan. Andrew Luck matters a lot because he's a little rusty. He needs some reps. He's holding on to the ball way too long.
Yes.
But you know what?
He looks like a dude that's been out of football for like 3 or 4 years. How long is that? However long it's been. Been a long time.
But he'll be back. But you know what? Enough about that. Let's get back to the topic du jour, and let's finish our U of L preview where we're going to talk about the defense. So we did a preview last week where we talked about Louisville's offense, went over the wide receivers, offensive line, what we thought were going to be the breakout stars, what we thought were going to be concerns. So let's do the same thing about the defense. And the first unit of the defense I want to break down is possibly their strongest unit, which is the secondary.
Yeah, possibly. And that's funny considering the best defensive player last year, Jair Alexander, came out of that secondary, and they lost 3 of their 4 starters.
Yes.
And yet still that might be the best and deepest, most talented unit on the field. And I agree with you. I think that that secondary has a lot of talent. Mm-hmm. They are bolstered by the 2 transfers, the Oklahoma transfer, P.J. Mbanasser, as well as Rajay Burns, the Louisville Trinity product.
That played Ohio State.
Both of those guys are back. I really love the talent of Trayshawn Smith. He played exceptionally well down the stretch of the season. Unfortunately, got hurt in the bowl game, but he seems to be getting back and getting healthy. And D. Smith as well has played a lot for Louisville. And then, of course, the wild card of that group, Marlon Character, is, of course, formerly played at Auburn, then went the JUCO route. Former 4-star safety, the number 1 JUCO safety in the country when he committed to the University of Louisville. I think that watching that guy is going to be, we want to see what we're going to get from him. Right now he's been working out with the cornerbacks early. I personally think it's really deep at the cornerback position with Burns and Mbanasser as well as Russ Yeast. So I don't know where Marlon Character fits. I don't know if he's maybe a nickelback where he'll play that 3rd wide receiver and play in the slot. I think that might be where he starts at. But, I mean, there's just so many guys. Chandler Jones, a true freshman as well.
Another guy people
stand out from
about.
Florida. There's just a lot of talent in that secondary, especially the cornerback position. So I think that's going to be a position to watch. But it's nice to have talent there for once.
Well, you know, the thing is that there's a lot of talent in the secondary. You named all the guys. A lot of big name transfers as well. You're going to see a lot of time for University of Louisville. The only problem is that it's untested talent together. You know, a lot of these guys, yes, the transfers, they sit out a year, they practice all year, but this is their first time in the Louisville uniform playing in game time situations. So, you know, expect this group to maybe take some bumps and bruises, maybe the first game of the year, maybe the 3rd game of the year. Indiana State, the 2nd game, I'm kind of giving a pass on that one.
Well,
I think this group is going to solidify and become the strength of the team. The talent is there. It's just literally getting reps, getting used to the new defensive coordinator, the calls and things of that nature, kind of building that unit together. But this is the most talented, and according to Bobby, also the fastest secondary Louisville's probably ever fielded since he's been at the University of Louisville. That's saying a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I like about it, and I think where the secondary is going to be really helped out early, is the fact that Louisville is not inexperienced and young at the safeties. And I think the fact that you do have Trayshawn Smith, who played so much last year,
D. Smith played a ton.
D. Smith has played a ton. Having those 2 guys in the middle, it's good to have experience in the middle, because when you have guys guessing or rolling incorrectly on the coverage or not bringing help where it's supposed to be and rolling the wrong direction,
or just faking too much,
those mistakes in the middle of the field cost you a lot, and those tend to show themselves a lot earlier. So with the fact that those guys have experience there, I do think that's going to help them out. And then that talent on the edges, that does give them some time to come along. But at least you have guys that have played big-time college football at big schools, so they have that experience to lean on.
There you go. And let's come on down a little bit. Let's talk about probably the second strongest unit, which would be the linebackers.
Well, I don't know. I think that actually might be the weakest unit of the three. If I'm looking at the three levels of the defense, while they do bring back Dorian Etheridge, who was the team's leading tackler last year. They have a couple of converted safeties that they're going to be playing a lot. P.J. Blue is a guy that they moved down from safety who's been getting a lot of looks. Boosie Whitlow, on the other edge, is the transfer from South Carolina. He was expected to maybe start at defensive end, but it looks like they've moved him out to outside linebacker now.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to bring some athleticism, some speed, ability to rush the quarterback. They're going to have that. So I think that the linebackers will be solid, but I don't necessarily say that they will be spectacular. I think that they're just going to be a kind of dependent upon what the defensive line does. If those linebackers can just get to the point of attack and tackle, that's going to be huge, especially week 1 versus Alabama, a team that wants to run first down, second down, third down, and will run on fourth down if they can. It's going to be about those guys tackling.
And that's the thing. If Tua's the quarterback of Alabama, they may actually throw it a lot more.
That's true.
And Alabama, I mean, you can say they lost all the wide receivers and the whole team to the draft, but you know what? They do that every year.
Yeah.
And always reload. So they're going to have talent at all the positions. And they're going to try to test this linebacker core. I would. And
absolutely.
You know what you're going to get with Dorian Etheridge. You're not sure about everybody else, so you want to push them. You want to test them and see what they're going to do. Now, if you notice about Louisville's defense, you notice a theme. And the theme is transfers.
Yeah.
Bobby leans heavily on transfers. Always has. That's a trademark of Bobby Petrino, especially Bobby at U of L. Bobby's a good recruiter. He's a good identifier of talent, but he's not. I'm gonna say he's not the best recruiter at getting guys right out of high school. And Bobby likes to backfill his classes with a lot of transfers. And you're kind of seeing that on the defense, and especially going to see that on the defensive line. And when I mentioned about Bobby not being the best recruiter is that Louisville for the past couple of years has whiffed on defensive linemen. Most of the big defensive linemen they've gone after, they really didn't get, which left Louisville really depleted coming into the season. So they had to go get transfers, get JUCOs to kind of shore up that defensive line. And it looks like, they may have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it paid off, absolutely. I think that while I agree he's been able to bring in talent in the secondary and in the linebacker core, in his first couple of recruiting cycles at Louisville, he wasn't able to strike big on the defensive line. He did change that up this past season. And while he did bring in some very talented JUCO guys, Mike Boykin, who was a commit to Louisville out of high school, was a former four-star athlete, was the best player in Louisville's recruiting class when he first came out. I believe it was 2016. Is back with Louisville. He did commit back to Louisville, and he's penciled in as one of the starters at defensive tackle. Having him come in as a new recruit, Alan Love, who's a true freshman, Dejmi Dumerville-Jean, who's another true freshman, those guys being able to come in, and then you mix in the JUCO talent in Mike Boykin. You have
and Goldwire,
Goldwire as well, who's another JUCO transfer,
who's been a beast apparently, and who's just gone all beast mode.
Absolutely, I mean,
fall practice.
You got a couple of, but see, this is the thing though. I love Boykin, Goldwire. Both of those guys seems like they are taking a hold of position. But where's Gigi Robinson at? That was a guy that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks that I wanted to see kind of step up. He was a guy who a lot was expected out of. His dad was a big-time player at Auburn.
And a lot of people thought that Gigi was going to be the next thing. Auburn recruited him. So we expect a lot of big things out of Gigi, but he just hasn't performed.
I mean, they're talking about Dumerville-Jean, who came in at some people said that he's listed at 6'5", 375 pounds. Some people tell me that's a very conservative estimate. Some people tell me he's more like 6'5", 400.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, huge.
But
But he's a guy that it comes out of a St. Thomas Aquinas program in Florida that is one of, if not the best program in the state of Florida.
One of the top programs
one of the top, right there with Miami Northwestern and some of the other elite football factories. And Dumervil Gene is just a mammoth man. But it sounds like from what people have been saying that right now, he may actually play this year, and that was something that I did not. I expected for him to basically go to conditioning camp for a year and kind of get the pounds off. But they say that he's starting to make an impact.
A lot of reasons is because your defensive line, like to me, the two most important positions or units in football, defensive line and offensive line, and you have to have depth at both of those.
Yes.
So maybe one of those things that with all the JUCO transfers, once again, these are JUCO guys. They may have started out at big cost programs. Most likely, they went to JUCO. They didn't play a lot, so that experience isn't there. They got experience at JUCO, but it's not the same as experience at big time college football. So when you bring guys in, yes, you may want to redshirt them, but numbers wise, says that almost everybody's gonna have to play because we're gonna have to build that depth up.
Yeah,
and that's where schools like Alabama and Clemson, that's what it really gets you.
And that's what Bobby Petrino said was that, last year they pretty much had 6 defensive linemen that they utilized. So they didn't have a lot of guys that they could rotate in there. They basically would tend to get tired, and especially during the end of the season, guys were so banged up, they didn't have a lot of rotations that really made the defensive line suffer. And when you already had so many issues with calling plays, when you don't have a defensive line that has the energy to go out there and get after the quarterback, that's rough. Where now they said that they have maybe 9 guys, 10 guys that they are comfortable with rotating in there to keep bodies fresh to where guys are only having to play a couple of snaps at a time. And that's huge.
And that's huge. And now you just have to give them experience. That's the other thing. You just have to get these guys experience at the big-time college level and give them experience playing together as a unit. I guess that's kind of like, we're kind of hitting on a theme here with the defense, which is experience and kind of playing together as a unit. And I think that's what this defense is going to have to do. I think this defense will be better from day one. I think they'll be better than what they were last year. I think even against Alabama, they'll be better than what they were at any point last season.
No, I totally agree with that, and I would be remiss if I did not give a mention to Tiberius Peterson, who's a guy who's been mostly a special teams player since he's been at Louisville. And Bobby Petrino has kind of lauded his efforts in both off-season workouts, how he worked out in the spring, and how he's come into fall camp. And he, kind of talked about how Tiberius has basically come in and taken a spot that a lot of people thought Boosie Whitlow was going to take that defensive end spot, and Tiberius Peterson has been so good to where they've moved Whitlow positions. So
that's saying a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Tiberius is a guy who has not played a lot, but he seems like he's being expected to come in and play a lot of snaps and a lot of reps on the edge there. So we'll have to see what happens. Like guys like Jarrett Jackson was another big-time recruit at the defensive end, a true freshman out of Florida that was expected to come in 6'4", about 245 pounds or so, defensive end, and play. But right now, Tiberius is holding those guys off. So that kind of goes into that depth of that rotation of that 9 or 10 guys. So I'm going to be very interested to see. But I think the most important defensive recruit of all those is Brian Van Gorder. Getting rid of Peter Sirmon.
Oh, God, yes.
Kicking him to the curb. Where'd he go, SMU? Letting him go down to SMU or wherever he went
USC.
to. There's a USC, some 3 letters. So some school with 3 letters. Wherever he went.
I'm just glad he's gone.
He's gone.
I'm just glad he's gone.
And with him coming back in, Peter Sirmon, no, he came from USC. I believe he's at SMU now. Okay. I believe.
He's someplace out west. He can stay out west.
But
I don't care less.
With Peter Sirmon going ahead and making that move out of there and bringing in
Mississippi State, then with USC.
Yeah, Mississippi State. But he was originally at USC. He was a positional coordinator at USC. Got the defensive coordinator position at Mississippi State.
I don't know how.
And then, of course, came to Louisville as a defensive coordinator as well. But with him moving on, I think that's going to be huge. Brian Van Gorder, somebody made a very good point. People talk about Brian Van Gorder, how much of an upgrade is he going to be? Consider this. Even with the issues that Brian Van Gorder had at Notre Dame, he still had the 43rd ranked defense in the country. Okay? that was the lowest rated defense he's ever had. Okay, so any stop that Brian Van Gorder's ever made, his team was at least 43rd. If Louisville can be the 43rd rated defense in the country,
that's another win.
Absolutely. I mean, so that's the thing you have to consider is that this guy has always been able to perform anywhere. You know, anywhere. So, I mean, that's huge.
You know, honestly, let's be honest. We're talking about Peter Sirmon as our defensive coordinator. I could have got Madden 09 and just called plays of Madden 09's defense and would have done a better job.
I can tell you what play it was. It was the only play he ever ran was 3-4 all man. Everybody just played man-to-man defense and run around with your player.
That was
it every time.
Anybody is going to be an upgrade. Do I think Van Gorder is going to be good as Todd Grantham was? No, but he doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to be. The offense performs the way we think the offense can perform. He doesn't have to be Todd Grantham good. He can just be Mike Cassidy good, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will be. I mean, the biggest thing for Peter Sirmon is, and I said it last year, I just don't think he knew who he was as a defensive coordinator. He wasn't ready for the job. He wasn't ready to be a D coordinator. He was still much more of a position coach, and it burned him. And I think that's where Louisville's going to get the experience from Brian Van Gorder. The man's been coaching defenses for more than 30 years. He knows how to coach defense. He knows how to coach defensive fundamentals. He's a taskmaster. You know, I mean, Peter Sirmon was one of them guys that was laid back, cool. Everybody loved him. They called him a player's coach. He come around.
I'm not sure everybody loved him, to be honest with you.
I mean, but my point being is
I
that
think he was like crack.
He was very easy. He went very easy on guys. And I just think that Brian Van Gorder is going to bring a whole new attitude. He's going to expect perfection, and he's going to coach those guys hard, and that hasn't happened since Grantham was on the sidelines, and I think that's going to be a much-needed improvement.
I agree. And, you know, like I said, on this defense, to me the biggest thing is the defensive line. If the defensive line can come together, get pressure on the quarterback, Louisville's defense will be a lot better because you can mask all of the weaknesses on the defense if the defensive line plays well. That can mask a whole bunch of sins in the secondary, and it can match a whole bunch of sins in the linebacker core if the defensive line plays well. A lot of times, defenses go how the defensive line plays. And Louisville has the talent to be a very good defensive line. I think as the year goes along, you're going to see this unit get better and better and better.
Well, while I agree with you on the defensive line, I think it's more that whole front seven than it is just the defensive line, because to me, Louisville's biggest issue last year defensively were first and second down. They tend to give up 4 to 5 yards rushing.
Easy.
Every first and second down, to where literally every third down was like 3rd and 1, 3rd and half a yard, 3rd and 2, over and over and over again. And when you're giving up 5, 6, 7 yards on first down, it just compromises everything. You can't play from behind the chains like that defensively and win. You got to get into those 3rd and long situations. Louisville basically gave their opposition 3rd and manageable to 3rd and short every drive. And that's what can't happen. They got to get more penetration on first down. They do that, they'll be all right.
And that's where the defensive line comes in handy. If you can get that penetration, if you get that pressure off the defensive line, even if you're not too sure about the linebacker core, like I said, you can erase a lot of mistakes with good defensive line play. Good defensive line play will erase a whole lot of mistakes. Yeah. And if you can start to get pressure on the quarterback, get some sacks, get some pressures, get some hurries, it makes your cornerbacks are going to have time to gel. We're going to have time to get that real game experience and get better from game to game. So like I said, I really expect this defense, as the year goes along, to get much, much better. I think by the end of the season, they can keep the depth on the defensive line. This has a chance to be a monstrous unit if these JUCO guys, pan out.
I agree with you. I think that's going to be the biggest question mark. When you talk about a team that finished the season ranked, I guess it's, the 65th rated defense.
Like with the worst Power 5 defense?
One of the worst Power 5 defense. For the longest time, before Jair Alexander came back those last 3 or 4 games, Louisville's defense was literally rated outside the top 100. Like that, there was a point during the season where they were ranked like 121st or so.
And there's no way one
that
player
is unexcusable
should make that much impact on the entire defense.
It didn't. I think a lot of it had to do with schedule. I think it had to do with Louisville playing more games at home, and I think it had to do with that lightening up of that schedule. Now, Jair Alexander's an amazing player, but come on, a cornerback is not going to make that big of a difference. At the end of the day, Louisville just was not good. That was unexcusable. Bobby Petrino made the right move. I think on Main Event Sports Show, Haven, you called for his head after game 1. I gave him to at least game 3.
Nope. I gave him the first game, and I knew it was not going to work.
I gave him till game 3, and then after he got embarrassed by Clemson, I was like, yeah, okay, he's got to go. Yeah, I thought he might have been trying to maybe play some vanilla scheme to, hold something back for Clemson. No, it didn't happen. And, Peter Sherman is gone. I think that's going to be the biggest key for the defense. And if they can get, as we talked about, if he can be as good as his worst defense, which is 43rd, I think that's huge. If he can get inside the top 30, Louisville can win 9, maybe even 10 games. With as good as I expect the offense to be, I think that'll be good enough. You're not asking for shutouts, but, hold teams to 21 points, 24 points or less.
You can't give up like 600 yards to Boston College.
Correct.
That's
can't give up 40-plus points to Boston College. How about 45 points to Boston College should never happen.
Ever.
A team with no quarterbacks and one running play.
And this year the defense is going to be tested. You have Clemson. You have Alabama. And then you got to get ready to play Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech gives teams
physical running team.
A physical running team, that triple option.
Absolutely.
It's hard to prepare for because nobody runs it. You really have to be aggressive at the point of attack. It's really going to, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on your linebackers. Yeah. We'll see what type of linebacker core Louisville has when we play Georgia Tech.
Absolutely, because, that's all about staying in your gaps, staying disciplined, and, taking care of the ball carrier. It's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. I think Louisville has the talent. I think they have the depth. If they can maintain reasonable health, which they have been on the defensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, we heard the news of Tobias Little on offense, the fullback, getting injured, out for the season possibly with a knee injury. I think that one of those linebackers may be called to duty over there on the offensive side of the ball at fullback. So the defense may lose a bit of their depth, but other than that, they've been pretty much healthy. So that's good to see.
It's very good to see. Hey, tell us what you think. Leave some in the comments below. Who's going to be your breakout player? What do you think about the defensive line, the linebackers, or the secondary? How you think Van Gorder's going to do his first year? Let us know. Leave a message in the comments.
Hey, and
don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
And I want to let everybody know, if anybody notices the shirt that I'm wearing today, it's a 50th anniversary shirt of the Louisville Blood Center, celebrating 50 years of saving lives. I'm an avid blood donor. I've been donating blood since '97 when I joined the United States Marine Corps. Very passionate about it. So make sure you guys get out there, give blood, save lives. You can save an injury victim or a patient.
Hey, there you go. And, hey, we like to end almost every broadcast without
any struggle.
There is no progress.
Peace.
Peace.